Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Um, so we have Colin on today, who is an expert in conversion rate optimization. And so welcome, Colin.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be
Uh,
here.
Glad to have you. But anyways, so to begin, as a reminder for everyone, what we do at Nostra is we take information on who's visiting a website and then create a unique and optimized website for each individual on that site. So we'll link up with your CRMs, your ad portals, and every part of your website so that we can optimize it so each individual sees the right thing, the right call to action, the right image, the right customer testimonial at the right time. But now I'm going to turn it over to Colin. Colin, can you give a quick background on yourself and kind of your thoughts on conversion rate optimization these days?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm the director of marketing at Social Media Examiner, and we're actually based out of San Diego. And we had, one of the biggest social media marketing conferences in the U.S. It's at the convention center here in San Diego. Our last one was it was actually in 2020. It was like probably one of the last major conferences of 2020. And then obviously we had the pandemic hit. So, and then here we are. So hopefully be back in the convention center in 2022. That's our plan right now. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
And so, you're obviously deep in conversion rate optimization. You want to talk a little bit kind of on a high level what conversion rate optimization means to you and kind of what you're looking at these days?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's something I kind of really got into probably I guess about 4 years ago now, about in 2017, and started to see some people doing this and just got really excited about it because I saw the power in it. Like I saw it and was basically, this is a marketing superpower. So whenever I can find something that's like a superpower, I'm like, I want to learn that superpower, And it really is because a lot of times what ends up happening is people will they usually either have two problems, one of two problems. One is either there's a traffic problem or there's a conversion problem. And a lot of times they can solve the traffic problem. They're like, okay, we're getting tons of traffic, but it's not converting, and we can't figure out why. And that's when conversion rate optimization comes in, and it's all about, okay, so you have the big number coming in. How do you increase that smaller number, which is the conversion? And when you can do that, you know, at a pretty substantial amount, you start to really see things come together, and it becomes a number game. And so yeah, so that's what that got me excited when I saw that you could actually make changes on a page that will increase the conversion rate, and that there is kind of a process to it. That can be learned and refined through testing. It's all about testing and split testing.
Absolutely. And so can you go into maybe on the content side of things, any sort of bits of content that you're seeing that you like to test out or, go into maybe even into split testing different pieces of content?
Yeah, so there's many ways to go about kind of how to set up an experiment, and test two different, like A/B split test or something like that. And you can focus on a lot of different things. You can focus on either like the form or the substance, right? So like the form would be like kind of like the design of the page, and the substance would be kind of like what you put on the page, which is probably mainly copy and maybe some images or some video and things like that. And a lot of times I like to focus on substance. I like to focus on messaging, because it is one of the biggest levers that you can pull towards increasing the conversion. So there are lots of different things you can do, but typically the messaging is the most important one. And the reason is because that's where you communicate value to the customer. And that's where you're actually having the conversation with the customer. And everything on your page is communicating something to them, but they're looking for a reason to keep reading. Even they're looking for a reason to make that purchase, and if it's not there and you're not answering the questions that they have in their mind at the right time on that page, um, they're bouncing, right? They're leaving, they're not converting. And then you've got some other kind of safety nets, like, okay, well, we got some retargeting ads, we can bring them back, or some other things, right? Or maybe we're going to hit them with that next email. But typically, that's where I like to focus a lot of my efforts, is on the message, because if you can get that right, then you can start, looking at all the other things, like changing different buttons or changing different images and things like that.
Exactly. And that's where artificial intelligence and what we do at Nostra is just so powerful because, in a world a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you would run, all right, is this message better than this message for everyone, or maybe even for an audience, but let's just say
Right.
for everyone. And it's it takes time, and it takes, an expert to do, and it's not that it's effective. It's not effective, but it's not reaching the optimal. And so what artificial intelligence can do, and machine learning here, is you can say, okay, I want to test out this call to action, this image, this customer testimonial, etc. And then the AI can run billions of experiments in the time that it takes humans to run a couple dozen.
Yeah.
And start to show, okay, for this persona, this is the right web page. For this persona, this is the right web page. And so if you think about it, let's simplify to, let's just say, a green button. If we run a split test on an entire website and we say, or and 75% of people, the green button decreases conversions, and 25 it increases conversions. In a previous world, you say, okay, well, we're going to take it out because it decreases conversions.
Right.
But with AI, we can say, okay, when people come in and they're in the 25%, we show the green button. And when they're not in the 25%, we don't. And that's the beauty of AI and machine learning these days.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's something really cool. And it's something that just one person can't do, because one person can run one experiment, and when you can, and it's going to be optimized for whatever, for all traffic, right?
Yeah.
That's just the limitations that we have as people. So, to have a tool like that that's able to go, okay, well, we're going to run, what would you say, billions?
Yeah,
Billions of
literally
experiments.
billions.
Yeah, billions of experiments, up against all these different profiles, and now you have a customized experience for somebody else, because there are things at a macro level that are going to work for your audience, right? Like, there is going to be top value propositions and things like that for your product, right? That people are connecting with, which is, hey, this is the reason that I'm paying whatever amount of money for that, because it's giving me this desired outcome, and I'm finding the value is outweighing the cost. I mean, almost every conversion comes down to that. And a good way to do this is to think back to like something you recently bought and go like, well, what led me to purchase that? And think about all the things that it took. And at some point you were like, that's more valuable than these dollars in my wallet, and I'm going to pay them for that. So when you're able to test those different things and say, well, actually, some people are finding that this secondary value proposition that isn't converting as higher for all these other people is actually stronger for them. That's really powerful, because that's something you're not able to do, it sounds like, without this type of software.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we see it is, look, you could create all these rules by yourself. Like, you could create a billion rules. You would just have to spend a couple lifetimes doing it.
It's just not possible. Yeah, there's just not enough time to run all those tests. Yeah, and then also, it's dependent on a few things, right? You want to make sure there's significance to it, like you're hitting a high significance level. Do you guys have just curious, what's your like parameters for like your confidence level in the experiments and calling winners?
Yeah. So what we're able to do is, within 600 visitors from a particular audience, so 600 people that look the same, um, we're able to be 96% confidence. Our,
Yeah.
our confidence interval is at 96%
Yeah.
that we will show the right web page if there are 81 different possible web pages.
Yeah.
Within 3,000 visitors, we're over 99%.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
where we are.
huge. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, because you're aiming for 95, about 95%, I would say is a good compass. If you can hit 95%, and what that means is, when you're showing them two different things, we're 95% sure that they're going to convert on this page over this other page. And that's good enough, for us. And so if you're hitting 99, and I mean that's astronomical.
And
Yeah.
and how many visitors would it typically take for, if you're just testing one thing versus the other for you to get to
Right.
that 95% statistical significance?
Well, and you know this, it depends, right? The answer is it depends, and really it depends on the the delta. It depends on what is the difference between those two numbers. Because when you have something that's very close, it takes a ton of data, and a ton of time, and you just won't get it. Like let's say like, oh well, we need like 10 million visitors to be able to call this one because it's so close. So it's a wash at that point. Like you're just not going to be able to ever get that amount of data to declare a winner. And so whenever you run into that, if you guys are doing split tests and you're doing experiments, whenever you run into something like that, what you typically want to do is do something a little bit more radical. So like maybe you did just change a button color and like nothing happened. It's like, okay, well, why not like change, you could do what's called like a multivariant test where like, well, let's change a lot of things around the button. Like let's change kind of how it's maybe like if you want to do design, like how it's designed around the button. Maybe you want to change the copy around the button, maybe the copy on the button itself. You can do a multivariant that's a little bit more radical, and that might get you enough of a difference between two different pages where then you don't need as much data to call a winner.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, multivariate testing is really taking off. Because at the end of the day, you want to find the right combination. It doesn't really matter if call to action A and customer testimonial B pair well together. That's
Right,
great. If
right,
they each don't pair, don't do well on their own, that's okay. But it's
right.
good to have that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so a lot of times, you do need more data when you have multivariants, right? So because your traffic's going to be split. So if you're running, let's say you've got 3 different variants, well, now that's 4 different pages that people are hitting. So you've got your control, which is the original version, and then you've got 3 different test versions. That's so your traffic split 4 different ways. So you either need enough of a difference where it's kind of radical enough from the original, where there's going to be a big enough change that you're not going to need as much traffic, but it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher to call a winner typically because your traffic is split into 4 different places.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm just getting started. I've got visitors on my website, and you're running a decent shop. You're not just opening up a business.
Right.
Um, and you want it, and you're hearing what we're talking about, and you're talking conversion rate optimization. What's the first thing that you would say, hey, maybe take out the pencil, take out the notepad, and say,
Yeah.
maybe start jotting down these ideas over here.
Yeah, I mean, I usually think about like the top mistakes people are making on their pages. That's usually the first thing. One of them that I see a lot of people doing is there's multiple calls to action, and what I mean by that is not that you have a lot of different, not that you have multiple meaning like more of the same, because that's okay. Like it's okay to have like, hey, we've got a button kind of like at this midway point that has a deadline, and then we've got one at the bottom of the page that's our final call to action, and then we've got a third one. As long as it's all towards the same goal, that's okay. And obviously it needs to make sense where those are at. But when you have all of these different things that are actually competing, that's when you run into a problem. So that's what I mean by like multiple calls to action. So like let's say for example you have a landing page that you're trying to capture some emails for like a free download or something. Well, all of the call to actions should be for that free download. And if you have things like, hey, well, like we want you also to like check out this video, well, that's probably going to be competing against that. Or like, hey, we want you to like check out our Instagram page and share this out. And all of those things are actually distracting from the main goal that you want them to take, because there might be somebody that actually loves Instagram and they click on that Instagram icon and then they check out your Instagram page and then they just like never come back and they never get on your list. And for most people, that's how they're getting most of their sales are through their email list. So you just lost your prospect there, and that might have been a valuable customer that was really interested, but like you'll never know because they checked out your Instagram. So you just have to just remember what that goal is and just focus on that one goal. So that's the first one for sure.
Yeah, that's actually really funny that you say that. Our focus is always to get a singular goal on a website.
Yeah.
It's, do you want a marketing qualified lead? Do you want a sale? Do you want
Yep.
people, what is the goal? And then we can optimize everything toward that goal. If you
100%.
set a goal to get people to go to your Instagram and then people to go to this and that and this other thing, you can do it. It's a headache and a half, and it's a lot less effective.
Right. Yeah. And typically what will happen, because we've even seen this when you just present options, and you think like, well, we want to like, there's lots of different people and maybe they want option A or option B, whatever. And typically what'll happen is you give them more options and they choose none. They just go, I'm gonna leave because I don't want to have to make another decision. And and what I'm seeing marketers do, and the trend that I'm seeing and I'm hearing more is like people just don't want to do anything. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like they really want to be walked through. They want to have their hand held. And when you go like who wakes up and goes, I just want more difficult decisions to make today. Like nobody wants that. Like in fact, there's a some science behind like our ability to like make this, like we have a limited capacity to make decisions during the day. So like nobody wants extra decisions on their plate. So make those decisions for your customer on the page and make it super easy for them and just walk them through what they should do and why they should do it. They need a reason why. And so when you have all these, like you're competing against yourself when you have all these things. So it's absolutely the correct way to do it is just focus on that one goal, make everything optimized for them to take that action and give them the right reasons at the right time to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so then my last question here, and this is what I always say, what didn't we cover today? Obviously, quick interview, that you think
Yeah.
is just very, very important that marketers should know.
Well, we talked about messaging. I mean, really, and I talked a little bit about kind of like the kind of the questions that are in the prospect's mind when they hit your page, and kind of answering them in the right order. So I'll probably talk about that because I think that's really the key to everything. That is the most important part of your page. Like, you could work on button color and everything else after. It's, when someone arrives on your page, like they want to know like, where am I? Like, am I in the right place? So you want to think about where they came from. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from an email? Are they coming from an ad they saw? And what was the content of that ad? Does it match what's on the page? Was there a promise in there that needs to be delivered on the page? Things like that. If they say like, hey, like, you're getting instant access to this. Okay, well, when they land on that page, they better be able to find that instant access right away, right? So whatever is in there, you need to recognize they're coming from a place and reorient them. Like, am I in the place? Like, I click that button, did I get to the right place, right? So that has to be answered right away. And then they need to know like what they can do, right? Like, well, what do I do with this? Well, I click this thing, I sign up, and now I get this access, right? That needs to be very clear. And then the most important is why. Like, why should I do this? Because the last thing anybody wants to do is sign up for something else or sign up for another list. That they want to get value. So you say like, here's how we're going to communicate like that you need to get this. This is why this is so important. So that's really what a value proposition is. It's answering that question of like, this is why you need this. This is why this is worth your time. This is why it's worth reading another paragraph, why it's worth clicking that button. Like, all of that has a real cost for somebody because time is valuable for all of us, and people would rather be doing something else. Like, they're one click away from never subscribing, never buying. And that's the way you really have to think about your page and how important it is to get those conversions. So that was probably a lot to explain it, but it's just so important because people miss it. And you'll start to see it when you land on pages and you're like, yeah, I have no reason to be here. I don't even know what this is, right? You can start to like be really critical of that. Like we say, the most important words in marketing are "so what." And if you say so, like if you just read a line of copy and say so what after everything, that's what people are thinking when they hit your page. They go, okay, so what? Like, why do I care about this? And that's how you really have to like look at your copy with a critical eye.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you touched on this as well, and I'll end it with this, which is making sure the communication makes sense across the funnel. You don't want
Yes,
to
absolutely.
advertise people to, if you're an e-commerce store, you don't want to advertise saying, get your shoes and then show them a pair of pants. That's just
Yep.
not smart.
Better land on the shoe page.
Just those are some of the dumbest mistakes I've seen. And obviously AI can take care of all that, and it does.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, if people want to reach out to you, Colin, how's the best way to reach you to talk about conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, I mean, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up, Colin Lepiscopo there. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm not as active there, but I think it's at Realist Colin on Twitter. I try to check it. I'm not like crazy on Twitter, but definitely on LinkedIn. I'll definitely see that because I get email notified. So just add me there. You can message me there. That's how we connected. I think was on LinkedIn. So that's a good way to reach me. Yeah. So.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, well, if anybody wants to reach out to Nostra or me, you can book some time on our website at nostra.ai. And Colin, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah. Thank you, Arthur. Happy to be here.